Hello, all you amazing women, and welcome to How to Feel Like a Midlife Goddess. With me, Amanda Ryder, nutritionist and author. Now, I call this podcast How to Feel Like a Midlife Goddess because, let's face it, so many of us don't feel like shining in midlife. We can be grappling with physical and psychological symptoms, which can lead to a real loss of confidence, and it can feel like you're really losing your identity. However, I believe it's possible for us all to feel good at this time of our lives. So each week, I'm going to be sharing with you my best nutrition and lifestyle advice, as well as interviewing expert speakers. And week by week, together, we will build upon a foundation of healthy, sustainable habits that will really benefit us and make all the difference to how we feel. So stay tuned, because this is your recipe for thriving at midlife and bringing out your inner goddess. So today we are joined by Bethan Higson. Now, Bethan is the founder of Mother Root, which is a sort of alcohol-free, artisanal kind of aperitif, which I'm sure Bethan will tell us more about. But if you've worked with me, had dinner with me, been to one of our Well Women retreats, you'll know that I'm a big fan of this drink, and it really helps me on the evenings when I want to limit the amount of alcohol that I have, and I don't want to turn to a glass of wine, but I still want to have something special. So Bethan, I believe you started this company, was it 10 years ago?
I guess not the company, but the idea.
Okay.
Making the drinks for myself goes back 10 years. It was
Yeah.
in 2015 where I was pregnant with my first son, who's now, I guess he's turning 9. So yeah, the pregnancy, obviously a little before then. And that was the main catalyst to exploring making alcohol-free drinks for myself, because I actually had worked for a decade before that in the wine and spirits industry. Absolutely loved great drinks. It was a big part of who I was. Not the drinks, everything that goes around it, art drinks that are made to be delicious through artisan processes, that kind of the technical prowess, the blending, the sourcing of the ingredients, but also on the other side, just coming together over shared experiences, a great table of food and drink and community and connection, and that connection to the soil and connection to great flavors, and like the role that a great drink has in terms of bringing people together and opening up conversations. And it felt suddenly, for the first time, when I was pregnant and forced to have abstain completely for 9 months, that there was just such a lack of innovation in this space. Not that it wasn't possible, but that it sort of had been really left as an afterthought. And so I took it upon myself, just because I love this space, and for me, having great drinks and lots of brilliant flavors is important to me. I just started to make what became Mother Root for myself, and then for my friends, and then it sort of grew organically, and then ultimately saw that there was a space for a drink like what I was making out there for more people. And then I actually launched the business in so December 2018. So it took a while. It wasn't something that I did overnight, because it's not that I saw myself as an entrepreneur. No one in my family had ever been an entrepreneur. We all
You've
come
been
from,
working in the wine industry for
yes.
10 years, yeah. And so you obviously understand winemaking quite well.
Yeah, spent hours visiting vineyards. I was
Yeah.
obsessed. I did all my kind of degrees in viticulture, and being able to assess and do blind tastings of different wines. I loved all the kind of that meeting of art and science when it comes to creating wine and actually spirits as well. And um, it's absolutely fascinating. It kind of appeals to that kind of both creative science part of my brain. And there's so much of the things that are in the alcohol world that could be applied to the non-alcoholic world, but it felt like there had been this, ceiling put on what was possible.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just curious to explore and sort of break through that,
Yeah,
and
because it's
bring
not,
new
we're not
things.
all kind of thinking, oh, we need a non-alcoholic drink because we're pregnant, therefore we're going to rustle something up in our kitchens. So, yeah, I mean, obviously winemaking and well, tell us a little bit about what's in your drink so that everyone knows, for people
Yeah.
that don't know it, we know what we're talking about.
So my drink is based on a whole food recipe that has its roots in ancient Greece, and actually even earlier than that. There are some suggestions that goes back to, ancient Egypt, which has a base of apples, well, vinegar. In my case, it's apple cider vinegar, which is a naturally fermented ingredient. And that piqued my interest when I first read about these kind of drinks, because the fermentation process I was really familiar with from an alcoholic perspective, but here was the acetic acid fermentation, which is is an additional process. So first it goes through alcoholic fermentation, then there's the bacterial acetic fermentation that transforms the alcohol into the vinegar. And I knew from my time in wine that the fermentation processes is where flavor is built and where complexity comes from. I also, during my wine days, was really fond of those crisp, high acid, cool climate wines with, let's say your champagne or your crisp like German Rieslings and things like that. For me, the acidity is what also built and delivered flavor. So I thought, hold on, there's a lot interesting here from what I know from the alcohol world that is brought into these ancient recipes. And so I played around with them. The ginger that is added is delivers this wonderful non-sweet but sort of slow burn, which is also an element that you can really miss when you are, having, let's say, a soft drink or a soda. It's sort of it's like a pop of flavor, but then it dissipates and there isn't that sort of slow enjoyment. So the two ingredients, these are the core ingredients in my roots, the ginger, a very fiery ginger, and the apple cider vinegar help to bring a lot of flavor, a flavor that lingers and a flavor that develops and builds thanks to just the natural nature of the ingredients. And it was after that I really appreciated not only that they are brilliant for flavor, but they also really make you feel amazing as well because of the active properties in those two ingredients themselves.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I've tried so many non-alcoholic drinks because I haven't actually said welcome to how to feel like a midlife goddess, but this podcast is all about how to feel good. And when you get over 40, 45, start going through perimenopause and menopause, drinking alcohol for most people isn't a good idea. Not saying that, I never am tempted by a lovely glass of crisp wine, like you're explaining, nice white wine. But generally, hormones are changing and women just don't detoxify the alcohol as efficiently as they once did. And I certainly know that if I have a couple of glasses of wine, I guarantee you I will wake up at 3 in the morning feeling hot. And whilst that's not the end of the world, for some that's enough to wake them up for, the rest of the night. But also it's, when I do wake up and I'm hot, I'm like, oh God, I've drunk too much. That's not good, is it? I know it's not doing my body any good. Whereas if I have one of your lovely drinks, I don't get that effect at all. And like you said, it does really linger, doesn't it? Because you have it and it doesn't, it's not sweet. And does contain honey, doesn't it? So it's
Yeah,
ginger, apple cider vinegar, and honey. Is that all the ingredients?
honey, yeah, and honey and a little chili
Oh, a little
extract as
chili.
well.
Okay,
Yeah.
that gives it a fiery sort of undertone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to double down on the burn.
Ah, okay. Didn't realize I had chili in it as well. But it's very subtle. But it does kind of stay with you, and it does somehow give you that feeling that you're having something a bit more special than a soft drink. And I'm not a big
Yeah.
fan of fizzy soft drinks anyway. But yeah, and I suppose that's because you've worked on that complexity of flavors. And I was reading this morning that it took you a long time to get the drink just right, didn't it?
Yeah, many different iterations with layering on different botanicals and different styles of honey, heather honey, wildflower honey, because they all contribute to the flavor, the weight, the mouthfeel, all of the elements that, how I would assess a drink in the wine world. I was doing the same process here. The length of time that the vinegar had aged, has it been in barrel? Really, we then worked with the vinegar that was very clean, very citrusy, very lifted, which actually was perfect for then layering on top the ginger because they worked so well together. So you get this really lemony, zingy character, not too much of the scrumpy, vinegary character that you might find in some. And it's complementary. So it was really just kind of building from the bottom up and then taking that approach that I'd done in my previous career to apply it to non-alc.
Because sometimes when I've said to people, oh, it's got apple cider vinegar, they go, oh, no
Yeah,
thanks. I don't want one of those
but
before dinner. But it doesn't come across, very vinegary at all, does it?
yeah,
I'd say
no.
the ginger comes through a bit more.
For some people, they are still possibly more sensitive to it because it is a very volatile aroma, and that means that it's maybe the first aroma that jumps out the glass, but actually on the palate, it's really, really balanced with all the other flavors together. And for those who might be sensitive to that vinegar aroma, we've got some tips, which is to fill your glass with lots of ice cubes, because typically ice helps to kind of bring in those top notes. And so actually you get aromas which are much more balanced to make
Sorry,
sure
when
it's
you say
really
top notes, which
that.
ones?
So you know when you have a perfume or a wine, there's usually one top note that comes out
Okay,
first. With vinegar, because it's very volatile, it's the one
okay.
that
Stands
like
out.
jumps out first.
Yeah.
Whereas if you by chilling it down, typically you're bringing things more into balance. And so
Okay.
having lots of ice cubes helps to
Yeah.
bring all the aromas into balance together. And we also recommend a slice of fresh citrus, lemon, or orange helps to also bring that top note to be more of the citrus fresh note. And so just actually the ritual of making yourself a drink with the right garnish also enhances the whole experience. And then there is something to suggest that, your parasympathetic nervous system is kind of is being stimulated at that process as well of actually the ritual of making the drink is also helping you to unwind. So it all plays its part, but actually from the organoleptic, enjoyment of it, it actually does work and you get the fuller experience. So the garnish isn't just about making it look pretty and the ice isn't just about making it fancy. It really helps to create like the overall experience
That's
that's
so interesting
improved.
about the ice. Is that why typically, when you're in, Spain or France or somewhere, they seem to serve the wine, especially in Spain, a lot colder than we have it here. And when I first started living back in England, because we lived in Spain for about a decade, they bring whatever wine they brought, it always tasted amazing. And then suddenly bring it here in England, and it would be like, gosh, can you chill this rosé a bit more? But it did seem like you could drink anything, and anything and everything tasted really good when it was really cold. Is that the reason?
Well, it could be that, but it also might be situational. When you're really relaxed and with your friends and then have a positive outlook, those things play on flavor too. But no, it's true. Getting the temperature right is important, and having
Yeah.
the little details. A nice bright. We've got an article on our website, which is what's the difference between sparkling water and soda. So many people ask us,
Yeah.
and soda is just a sharper, bubblier mixer. So it's still, no sugar. It's just
Just
it's
water. Yeah,
effectively like
bubbles in it.
sparkling water,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's got the bicarbonate
Mm.
in there that makes it sharper and the bubbles bigger and sort of
Mm.
more poppy. And
Yeah.
that creates an even more impactful flavor because there is something apparently in the way that bubbles pop on your tongue. It creates little more flavor receptors, so you get even more of an enhanced experience. So
That's so
it could be
interesting.
that. It
Yeah.
could be that it's little things like temperature or details like the quality of your mixer, but it also might just be that you were really relaxed and enjoying that
Yeah.
time in your life, and everything tastes better when you're
Yeah.
abroad.
Yeah. No, maybe. But soda water, that's interesting. I always enjoy my ginger switchel. Although, are you calling it something different now?
No, we just took so the ginger switchel. The switchel is a
I
word
say that
that
for everyone listening, Bethan has just changed the bottle that Mother Root now
yes,
comes in. It's in a beautiful, can't see it, but in a beautiful brown bottle that is almost, yeah, it looks a bit like there could be a tincture in there or something. It's
yeah,
quite old-fashioned and significantly, pretty, I think. It's nice to have out. Yeah, and it was called Ginger Switchel, and it was in a different bottle. Still a very lovely bottle, but yeah, I think I do prefer this new one. But I just see it says ginger and fiery on there rather than ginger
yeah, ginger.
switchel.
So we called it the ginger switchel, but the switchel, which is a word I absolutely love to say and has historical significance. It was a drink that was particularly popularized in the US during the Prohibition era.
Oh,
um, that it's still part of the story and it's still part of the inspiration, but we felt that, there could be some confusion as to, are you Mother Root, are you Switchel, are you, so we just
mm,
simplified it to be part of our story that we tell on our website. And, how we came to be. But we obviously are all about ginger, and that is our hero flavor that
Yeah.
everyone knows us by. So that was the change, but that it is still the same liquid for anyone who's tried our switchel or mother root before and knew it as the ginger switchel. Our mother root ginger, which is our flagship flavor, is exactly the same.
So you recommend, I mean, I like to have it with soda water. That's my favorite, with some ice and some rosemary and a slice of either grapefruit, lemon, whatever I have,
Yeah.
whatever I've got in the fridge. And it is, yeah, really, really enjoy it. And it's honestly, it's helped me so much, Bethan, avoid that glass of wine when you feel like you want something in the evening, you want a bit of a treat. It's a bit sort of ritualistic. I like to put it in a really beautiful glass so it feels a bit more special, because I think that's where a lot of us go wrong. We have a soft drink in a kind of tumbler, not very special. Don't maybe put any ice or any other sort of, don't embellish it in any way. And then it feels like everyone else is having something a bit more special, like in their beautiful wine glass, and we're having, the boring soda water or something. So I think the ritualistic side is really important. Yeah, and like I was saying, I feel that it's been really helpful, and I hope that people that are listening will give it a try, and again find the satisfaction in having a drink in the evening that isn't actually alcohol based. But I'm interested to know, are you, do you drink alcohol? Obviously, you were in the wine industry. You probably have, sampled a lot of wine in your time.
Lots. Yeah. I do still drink alcohol occasionally, but I have to say that it's much reduced from when I was certainly working in the industry. And also since having my kids, I have an 8-year-old and a nearly 6-year-old. And now running the business, I really, throughout the last, well, nearly a decade, I really felt that impact of a glass of wine on my sleep. And and also, you think I've never been busier in my life. It's just that you entering this stage of life where there's so much to do and the list is ever increasing, but also where I'm starting to feel like actually I really know what I want from life, where, what I want to be prioritizing. And so alcohol really makes doing the things that you love, because you're limited in time anyway, even harder. You don't want to be wasting time feeling a bit grotty, and days where your patience is being tested by your young children. You get to the end of the day, you felt a bit snappy and not connected with them, and it just makes you think differently about alcohol. But I'm not totally teetotal at all. I still love it, particularly if we go for a nice meal out, or Christmas we had some special wines, but I guess it's just a lot less because I know the trade-off is really hard. So
Yeah.
I'm much more selective about when I have it.
Well done you, because you obviously come to that conclusion a bit earlier than some of us. But the sooner you learn that lesson. Although,
But
yeah,
I
people have
also
an
think it's
identity
just,
sometimes and they're quite attached to their wine drinking. And that's
yeah,
who I am. I like to have a drink in it, and that's, everybody can make their own decision and feel how they
absolutely.
want to feel. But once you've made the switch, you're like, oh, I do feel quite fresh. And sometimes when I'm out at a party and I make the decision not to drink, it doesn't matter how late I go to bed, I will wake up the next morning feeling fine. And that sort of, and
Yeah.
after everyone's had the initial couple of glasses of wine and you've missed that and you've drunk something else, you suddenly, it's quite fun watching everybody else be a little bit tipsy and you're quite sober, but still, feeling quite sort of lifted by everybody else's high spirits. So yeah.
Yeah. I just think, all obviously having been very heightened to what's happening in this, part of the world, I've seen the transformation of culture around drinking that really happening. You know, 10 years ago, let's say when I started making this, it was just seen as something that obviously only pregnant women would be interested in. But now it's absolutely everywhere. Um, there is not one person who I speak to who doesn't say, "Oh, actually, this year I really would like to drink a little bit less." And there is no stigma attached to it. It's a real transformation, and it's something that's only picking up speed. So I think that's played part of it. It's a cultural shift, that does go beyond age. There's suggestions to say that, Gen Z is going to be it has the highest percentage of people who will actually never choose to drink. That's the way it's looking. And yeah, it's just a big, and it's a global conversation. I saw a stat that said that 75% of the global population is looking to reduce what they drink. And so it's just everywhere. And so it's yeah, pretty exciting to see and to understand where it's going. And I think also there's just more options now than there were, which also makes it easier. And it's really important for people to not feel like they're missing out. And so if there are more options available, then you really can still have the best of both worlds. You go out, it doesn't stop you from the stigma's there, so you don't feel like you're going to be sort of laughed at. So you can go out, you can see your friends, and there's options. So you can also still have a great, delicious evening and really just live the way you want to live without compromise.
Yeah, and it's quite social, isn't it? Because I've done it to people and I've had it done to myself. Oh, go on, have a drink. Oh, go on, let your hair down, and yeah, and there is a social pressure, especially in our generation. And I also see that my kids, they don't drink that much. They really do think about the health, whereas we certainly weren't thinking about that. So it's really promising, isn't it?
I think COVID also, you know, actually sped up the focus on health and also preventative measures, that kind of association with what you put in your body being something that can really help look after yourself. So actually maybe taking the power back and feeling that you have ownership over your health, and there are things you can do, small steps that you can do to really help you um, just feel stronger and healthier, and maybe stave off some of those illnesses that you don't necessarily, that you want to avoid, or at least give yourself the best chance of staying fit and healthy. I think that really sped up the conversation around
Mm.
not drinking as well.
Yeah, and it's quite empowering. If a doctor says to you, you've got this, and you're just going to have to deal with it. There's nothing you can do, which has obviously been said to a lot of people, and that's what I love about nutritional therapy. No matter what you have wrong with you, you can influence how well you're going to deal with it, how well your body's going to react to it. So, and obviously alcohol plays a part in that. Now, I do want to go on and talk a little bit more about acetic acid and the apple cider vinegar and the ginger. But before we do that, I'm really interested to know how you start making a ginger and apple cider vinegar a drink in your kitchen. And now you've got this, amazing company. And yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that process? I'm sure people would be
It
interested to
took a
know.
long time. Like I said, I started it sort of 3 years before I decided to launch it as a business. And it was mostly a big challenge of mindset challenge and feeling like I was capable of it. I could do it. It wasn't sort of something I'd been planning for, to become a business owner. And whilst I knew a lot about the drinks industry, there was a lot about just general business that I didn't know. I had never looked after, you know, a P&L and, all the different things that I now have had to learn. It's been a really steep learning curve and I've absolutely loved it. But the biggest part was kind of growing my own confidence. And there's more and more female founder communities that have come out since, which honestly I wish had been there right at the start, because I think I'd have got at it sooner and faster. I mean, I've got no regrets. I'm so blessed and understand that, I am where I am thanks to the journey that I've been on. And but I just think that those communities that have popped up have just made it really wonderful to get people just starting the thing that they
Yeah,
want to do.
absolutely. And you know what they say, you can go a long way by yourself, but you can go further with others. It's so true, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of it in the early stages is really self-taught. From, how do I all the tech admin platforms that you now need to support your business, particularly if you're an online business. And that was not my area of expertise, so I had to, learn a lot. My team now we're a team of 8, so we have come a long way, but we're still a very small business. But they laugh because I say ChatGPT is like my co-founder. And it took me a while to embrace ChatGPT, so the AI platform that can basically help you figure things out. But I'm in constant conversation because there's always something new to learn, and it just helps me get going and understand, breaks down very things that are a bit complex, let's say something to do with legal one day or HR another day or finance another day, it will, I'll ask it to break it down as if I was an 8-year-old and explain it
Yeah.
to me. And then, it gets me going and I can kind of move it forward. There's so much that has come in um that if you get your head around it and can embrace it, it can really help, you know, people who have a business idea and want to get it off the ground and help you along the way and move
So you'd
faster. So
recommend ChatGPT if anyone's
I
sort of
would
thinking about
absolutely
starting something?
recommend
Yeah,
it.
I don't use it in that way, Beth, and that's really interesting. I'll use it maybe if I'm writing something, but less and less because I feel I don't want I want my writing to be me, not to be, but I'll ask it some things, but I wouldn't ask it anything to do with business. But that's a really good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
and
forget you
and
can
there's
ask it
probably
anything.
hundreds of things that I'm not aware of that I can use it for because it's
Yeah.
obviously it's brand new to many of us, but it is pretty fascinating, and certainly I've found it very, very helpful for just lifting the lid on things that is new to me and I need it explained. And yeah, I definitely say there's lots of tools now. If you were thinking about starting a business, absolutely do it. Find your community and also, get stuck into these tools that can help you learn quickly. And yeah, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, because I think also I was talking to a business coach at the weekend. She was saying that, whilst people want to start a business, there's so much you need to do, like social media, understanding business, like you said, the P&L, there's so many things. And if you haven't done it before, it can feel very overwhelming. And then you just think, oh, I can't even. Yeah. And then
Hmm.
marketing, the constant marketing, whatever you're doing, the marketing is so important, isn't it? And some people just want to do what they do. And, so but because we've all got access and we can do everything ourselves, where there was a time where you had to get a marketing, expert or an accountant to do certain things, whereas now you can access all of that, but it just takes quite a long time to learn, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Having
yeah.
people
And
to help. I think there's
case
a
in point.
yeah, I think there's a bit of, you want to empower yourself and learn how to do some things, but if you try and do everything, it's just too much and you can't
Yeah,
actually focus on the business. But the ChatGPT is a good one.
yeah.
You started making your drink in the kitchen, so presumably you weren't producing many bottles to start with.
No, very, very few. Yeah, as
Yeah.
I said, initially it was for me, friends, and then launched it in a local market in Peckham in Southeast
So
London,
people were very
where I'm
enthusiastic.
based.
Presumably you started making it and they were like, oh, Bethan, this is really good. And that
Yes.
kind of
And
did that
then
give you the
obviously they were my family and friends. So,
yeah.
you have to take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. But
Yeah.
then once I decided to launch it as a business, I actually took it to some of the top restaurants to get their review on it. And my first listing was the Ledbury in London, which is a 2 Michelin star restaurant. It was in the top 10 best restaurants of the world at the time. And so that was a real seal of approval that actually this was good. It wasn't that just my family and friends were sort of being nice, but that there was something here. And actually, the team at the Ledbury, the sommelier and all the waiters, that would be their drink that they would have before a shift to kind of G them up and give them the pick me up, and also what they would enjoy at the end. Um, so it that was a sign that there was
Yeah, so
something
that was
here.
real validation that you had something quite
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, and that was okay, worth then. Okay, and then quickly I decided to find I said, okay, it's not feasible to do this in my kitchen. So I found a premises just outside of London, and a husband and wife team who helped me make it now, who are the same people who I've worked with since that very point, to then be able to make larger batches and to scale as we've grown over the years.
Yeah, amazing. So how long have you been in business? Remind me.
It's 6 years.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah.
And are you in a lot of restaurants now? Because I've been in a few in Cambridge and they haven't had. I'm like, oh, I haven't got Tinder
I
sort of,
know. We
and
are. We've got some gorgeous restaurant listings
uh,
across the country, but the majority of the business is actually through our online, through our website. We're also listed on Amazon, and just this January, we got listed in 87 Waitrose across the country and
brilliant.
Ocado too, and they've
Yeah.
gone off to a brilliant start. So we more have the most the most of our customers are drinking this in their home or taking it around to their friends, but we would love to be in more restaurants. I think that's just slightly more challenging to get into those because typically there's a big wholesale route in between, lots of different people in between from getting it from us to the restaurant, and so many different, thousands and thousands of different accounts. So we're still a little too small to be able to properly look after that side, but we're absolutely thrilled to be so much more widely available now, especially now that we're in Waitrose and
Yeah,
Ocade, and
amazing.
we've had so many amazing messages from since launching into those.
Yeah, brilliant. And we will keep asking for it in the restaurants.
Well, that is
Yeah.
actually, that really, really works. So we've been able to set up some wholesale partners who do deliver in, and it's one of those chicken and egg things. They want to list you, but then they want to know there's going to be demand. So then if you actually genuinely go into a pub and you want to see Mother Root there, ask them. And it's the same with any local store. If you've got a lovely deli or farm shop that you go to and you don't see us on shelf, ask them, because you actually have the power to then get the products that you want on shelf. And you can do that for anything that you absolutely love and you'd rather have listed. If they're a good publican or a good, shop owner, they will listen to their customers and put on shelf what you want. So
Okay, well, I shall continue to do that, and hopefully other people
yeah,
that are listening, or whether they've tried it or not yet, might ask. So, Bethan, as a nutritionist, obviously, I'm very interested in the sort of therapeutic properties of the drink, and you've mentioned that there's, apple cider vinegar, ginger, honey, and a bit of chili. Can you tell us about, acetic acid, this acid that's, that comes from the apple cider vinegar, and why that's beneficial to human health?
yeah. Well, you probably got even more knowledge on this as you're the professional in this area, but obviously we have learned so much about the benefits of acetic acid when it comes to supporting your digestion, and also, by stimulating the bile flow and being that first step into supporting like fuller digestion and therefore better absorption of all the nutrients that you are getting from your meal. But then in addition to that,
Which is huge.
um,
Just that one thing alone
yes,
is so beneficial for so many people that perhaps, I see so many people with digestive issues and gut issues, a bit further down, and any help in stimulating digestive juices is going to benefit most of us.
yeah. And also because we are the first drink of the evening, that aperitif, which is what that means, is it's aperitif, aperitivo. It means to open up. It's to open up the appetite. And typically they were drinks that were high acid or bitter in terms of the flavor profile, because it stimulated the digestive juices. And we're that kind of modern day version of it, because the apple cider vinegar actually actively stimulates the digestive juices and then prepares you and your digestive system for your meal, which I just think is fabulous. And it really fits with the moment that you have it right before, let's say you're in the middle of cooking, you have this, and then you can enjoy your meal and enjoy all of the benefits of your meal as well in a fuller way. There are also suggestions that the acetic acid in particular helps to sort of soften the peaks of your blood sugar levels. So if you're having something that is maybe very high in starches or pasta, or it helps to sort of soften those curves and balance, give you a little bit more of a balanced glucose response following
Yeah, so you're sort of
acetic
avoiding the big
acid.
spikes, and you've got just sort
Yeah,
of nice little sort of round hills of bumps of blood sugar, because we
exactly.
don't want too much sugar or glucose sort of hanging around in the bloodstream too long. So acetic acid helps. I know it also helps to get the glucose into muscles, which is a sort of, like a bank for glucose. The glucose goes to your muscles and your liver once it's gone out of the blood, and for so that we've got energy for later. So that's, I always say to people, work on your muscle mass, because then you've got a sort of bigger sugar deposition, if you like. You've got somewhere for that sugar to go. But also, if you can help by having the apple cider vinegar, which contains the acetic acid, that's going to help transport that glucose from the bloodstream into the muscle. That's fantastic, isn't it? And this delicious
Yeah.
drink that you have before dinner. And I think for a lot of people, a lot of women, for years, when my kids were young, we were told that 2 glasses of red wine a day were good for you. And I would often, when we lived in Spain, have a glass of wine, and I'd drink that while I was cooking. And it was, again, it became quite a sort of ritual, like, oh, it's 7 o'clock now, I'll have a glass of red wine. Yeah, making that swap to something like the ginger switchel, you still feel like you're having that treat, and knowing that it's going to benefit your digestion and your blood sugar is brilliant.
Yeah. And honestly, it was really a happy accident.
I was
I
going to
came
say, did
at
you
it
know those
from,
things when you created the
yeah,
drink, or
no, it was really coming at it from flavor, deliciousness, full, that length of flavor. When you have a delicious drink that's not as, the soft drinks tend to be really two-dimensional, like I said, sort of, and cloying and overly sweet and unbalanced. And what we really enjoy from those kind of more adult, typically alcoholic drinks is that it isn't so sweet. It has a bigger flavor, more texture, or slightly more challenging bitter characteristic, or higher acidity, or it's just got more going on. So I was really seeking that. But the nature of the ingredients that could do that, and also the strength and the intensity at which I use them, it just, yeah, gives you those additional benefits, which is great. It's win-win. So
yeah. Listening to you, Bethan, I now understand why I so like this drink, because that sort of delicate complexity that you've created obviously wasn't it wasn't a happy accident. You have kind of really worked on the balance, haven't you, and the notes, and yeah, it all makes sense now. And anyway, that's a sort of the acetic acid side of things, which, as I said, is contained in the apple cider vinegar. But also ginger has lots of fantastic properties, doesn't it? Like the oils in gingerols are
yes.
fantastic for human health. I don't know if you can tell us a bit more about that.
With ginger, for well, so many things. I'm mostly familiar with its ability to support with inflammation, and also support your so the functioning of your immune system.
Yeah.
And in addition, also being, particularly if you are suffering from nausea, being a helpful ingredient in that regard. But there's so much that ginger can do, and particularly, so many non-West. Well, we're beginning to understand it more in Western cultures, but it's really revered in so much of Eastern medicine and Eastern culture, and it has, been for years. It's really an important part of the diet.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is fantastic for reducing inflammation. And again, as we get older, we just become more inflamed and a bit more creaky. And if you can kind of keep a lid on that, you're going to feel so much more flexible, and you're just going to be healthier all around. It's also good, like you said, for nausea and anything gut related. There are so many studies to back this up. I remember, when I did my degree years ago, I did an essay on, the benefits of gingerol, and it just, I just could keep writing because there was so much. But it's also good, yeah. So if you feel nauseous, if you've been sick, it's really good. It's really good for pregnant mums that are suffering with nausea. It's helpful for pain relief, people with arthritis, creaky joints. It's also helpful for people with period pains. So it can, again, be a bit of a pain relief in that way. It has benefits that will help lower your cholesterol, which, is amazing. And again, you're not a midlife goddess yet, but when you get to, you get to perimenopause and menopause, your cholesterol, it increases by, I think it's like 25%, so
Wow.
everybody thinks that, heart disease is something that men get, and we are very protected when we've got lots of estrogen in our systems. But when we haven't, our risk of having a heart attack, gets up in line with that of men, and many women die from a heart attack. I think it's the number one killer for women, not breast cancer, all the things that we, constantly worried about. But yeah, ginger can be really good for that, for lowering cholesterol, good for weight management. And it's also, and what I find, because a lot of women will come to me and they might be suffering with gut issues, whether it be bloating, constipation. And I've used fresh ginger and advocated dried ginger as well. Either or can be good. And it's really helped with constipation, which I think, a lot of people suffer with constipation. I think it's the Western diet and lots of people eating processed food, and gut motility just isn't, as good as it once was. But, ginger, or the gingerol, can help with gut motility. And just while I'm saying that, this morning I was just looking up, how much ginger. And I don't know if you know how much ginger is in a shot of I think I always have 25 milliliters as a shot. And I have one or two of those in the evening. But, I was reading daily amounts are sort of like a teaspoon of raw grated ginger, half a teaspoon of powdered ginger, or 4 cups of water steeped with half a teaspoon of grated ginger. So it's not a large amount. I do use with people and myself a lot more than that, but I think you have to be a little bit more careful if you're pregnant.
Yeah,
You
in
can
our
do that.
shot, we've actually got it written down. It's 5,350 milligrams of ginger in a shot
Okay.
of mother root,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of equivalent or just under, your normal if you go for a ginger shot, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
typically 60 mil,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's pretty strong on the old ginger.
Yeah. So a shot is 60, not 25.
25 of mother root. That's the
Oh,
number I
so
gave you. But if you were
yeah.
to buy, those shots in the ginger shots in the
Oh, I
supermarkets,
see. Yeah.
they typically are a 60 mil. So it's got a similar level per mil to the shots that you get in the in the health food stores or the
Yes.
supermarkets.
Yeah. 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 Because as nutritionists, I think we see this a lot. You think a little bit of something is good for you, a lot is going to be even better. And sometimes, you can overdo it on certain things. So it's always useful to sort of think. But I've never had anybody say, I've overdosed on ginger. So, yeah. And then tell us a little bit about the honey aspect of the drink.
So we use a blossom honey, and it's mostly orange blossom honey. So it's very delicate. It adds beautiful orange, sort of orange flower notes, almost like a honeysuckle, lovely, yeah, that orange blossom, that note, which is what worked really beautifully with the ginger and that sort of zingier lemon apple cider vinegar. As I said, I'd really tried lots of different ones, but let's say the wildflower versions made it taste really medicinal, whereas the blossom honey that we opted for just added so much texture to the drink as well. Um, I also just love the fact that honey itself has its own properties that can convert some benefit to you as well. So we're not just adding a sugar to sweeten and balance, we're also bringing mouthfeel, aroma, and additional benefits that you might seek from honey itself.
And it's so nice, Bethan, to see a natural sweetener like honey rather than, sugar or aspartame or sucralose, all
Yes.
the, people say, oh, I have a Diet Coke, once a day, Amanda, but it's got no calories. I'm like, oh, yuck. It's just got so many chemicals in it.
Yeah. We are not planning on bringing out a version of Mother Root which is made with sweeteners, because really we think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. There is still too many unknowns about the non-nutritive sweeteners and the impact on your body, your gut especially, that we feel that it doesn't make sense for the way that you know that we view healthy living, as we speak about whole being, and I think that is about taking a quite pragmatic look on what sort of health is, and that does mean that some sugars are okay. Obviously you don't want to overload yourself with it, but it's like anything. It's about finding the things where you want to have, a moment of indulgence that's also made with ingredients that trust, want in your body, um, but rather than things that, there's still juries out on what they might do to you in the long term.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. If you think about sweeteners, so they are 200 to 600 times sweeter than sugar. So when they hit your mouth, you're getting the message that this is super sweet. So your brain interprets that message that, oh, there's lots of sugar coming my way. And of course, it doesn't come. And some studies have said that that potentially leads into this roller coaster of craving, because your body's saying, well, where's all the sugar, that you promised
Yeah.
me? I haven't had it. And we don't fully understand, the implications of that. But again, I've been, a nutritional therapist for 13 years. I haven't seen many slim people that are drinking the diet sodas. So I mean,
Mm.
that's only my cohort of people, but that's just my impression. And I also think if you've been, paying attention to the health space of late, we're all trying to reduce our ultra processed foods. And to me, they are one of those, obviously. Chris Van Tullochen, I don't know if you've read his book. think it's
I
ultra
haven't.
processed people.
Oh, I've heard of it though.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on
yeah.
my
And
list.
he's really shone a light on, how much research and, marketing is done around, mouthfeel and, they sit people in a room and they try three different versions of, say a snack bar, and the ones that people want to eat again and again and again, they're the ones that go to market, So it's quite hard to beat this trend, and people, again, I see this with alcohol and with sweet foods or crisps or something. People say, oh no, but I love my crisps and I love my glass of wine. And, it's like, no, I'm not giving that up. And I kind of get that because, none of us want to be told what to do. But at the same time, you love it because somebody has designed it that way, and they've designed it
Yeah,
for you to get a dopamine hit. So you eat it and your brain says, oh, I like that. I want some more,
yeah,
and then you overeat. And that's why we're in the mess where we are, where, over 60% of people are overweight or obese, and there's, again, I'm no fat shaming, but most people don't really want to be obese. They want to be a healthy size for them as an individual, and having those kind of foods regularly in your diet isn't helping at all. So
yeah.
yeah, that's why I think your drink is, yeah, I really wanted to speak to you, and I'm such a big fan of ginger switchel. So thank you so much. I think we're kind of at time now, but that's been a really interesting conversation, learning all about the notes and the complexity and how you put the drink together. Would it be okay, Bethan, if I offered the discount code that you very kindly offered to our attendees at our recent Well Woman retreat to the podcast audience?
Absolutely, would be thrilled to, and I hope people listening will use that as a chance to give it a go if you've been thinking about it, and also happy to if people have questions that they follow up to you or me directly through the website or on us on Instagram, on Motherroot LDN on Instagram. That's probably the best way if people want to reach out and ask
LDN for
questions.
London.
London, yeah.
You're based in Peckham, but that's not your
Yeah.
accent, is it?
I'm actually from Edinburgh
Oh,
originally.
are you? Okay.
Yes, I am, although you probably can't tell because I've lived longer outside of Edinburgh than I have now in Edinburgh, but it's still there
You
a little
sound
bit.
you sound a bit west, a little West Country town. Did you live in...
Oh, lived in Bristol for a bit as
Oh,
well,
okay,
so
that's where
it's a
that comes from.
mishmash.
Brilliant. So how can people find your website, Bethan?
So it's motherroot.london, and then also, when you Google Motherroot, where you should be one of the first that comes up. So that's mother and then root, second word. And and so that's probably one of the easiest ways to find us, or as I said, through Instagram, and you can get in touch via the DMs there.
Brilliant. Okay. And if you did want to order a bottle, Bethan has very kindly offered 15% off your first purchase if you, presumably there's a promotional code on your website.
Yes.
And if you put Amanda 15, Amanda 15, and that's capitals.
Yes.
Yeah. I will also put all these details in the show notes. I always feel such a fake saying show notes, but you know what I mean, the notes below the podcast information. So you can just click on there and order a bottle. But you can also get it in Waitrose, Ocade. I also buy it from the Natural Dispensary, which is where I recommend my supplements from because I really trust them and I know they store everything really well and have,
They're great. They're amazing.
they are amazing. So you can also get it at the Natural Dispensary. But that was brilliant. Thank you so much for giving up your time, Bethan.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Lovely to chat. Thank you so much.
So that was the lovely Bethan from Motherroot. And what an interesting conversation. I now get why this drink, aperitif, is such a hit because it really does deliver on taste. Now, I'm not a teetotaler, although I do consider it from time to time. However, at the moment, I do enjoy an occasional drink, like once a week, a glass of something alcoholic with friends. I find quite nice. But I've definitely kicked the habit of drinking 3 or 4 times a week. And I notice that my mood is better, my skin looks clearer, and my brain can recall things more quickly, which I really like. And I've done this because I've found good non-alcoholic replacements like Motherroot. And I can say emphatically that Motherroot is my absolute favourite at the moment. And I have to say, I don't crave a glass of wine like I used to, or need it to wind down in the evening. So, honestly, it can be done. It's just a case of changing your habits. Anyway, that's just some gentle encouragement from me if you are thinking of limiting your alcohol. I am going to be speaking to a lady in a few weeks' time who struggled with alcohol and gave it up and has quite an interesting story, so listen out for that one. But if you did want to try mother root yourself, the way I make it, I like to place a few ice cubes in a glass. Then I pour over 25 millilitres of mother root, so just like a small shot. And then I add some soda water and a slice of orange. At the moment, it's February and I'm using blood oranges. So good. A couple of slices of blood oranges. Lovely. With a sprig of rosemary. And then it really does feel like quite a special drink. And like I said, all the links listed below. If you do want to give it a try, Bethan has very generously given us this 15% discount off our first purchase. So thank you for your company. Next week, I'm going to be talking to Harvard-trained dermatologic surgeon, wife, mum, and skin enthusiast, Dr. Mina. And she's going to be helping us understand, our skin a bit better in midlife and how we can minimize what we use on our skin, why less is more, and just helping us to create a really impactful skincare routine. So yeah, do come and have a listen to that one. But until then, have a great week. Bye for now. If you'd like to find out more about my approach, you can find me and lots of my simple, nutritious recipes demonstrated on Instagram at Amanda Ryder Nutrition, and that's Ryder with a Y. Or you can visit my website, www.amandaryder.co.uk. Or if you like a copy of my book, Feel Good for Menopause, you can find that on Amazon. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could like, follow, or click the subscribe button. It will really help me grow the podcast and keep me going. So thank you. And of course, do get in touch. I'd always love to hear from you. So that leaves me to say I'm sending lots of love and light from my midlife goddess to yours. See you next week. Bye for now.